If you didn't match, then this video is for you, because in this video I'm going to break down what is the reason why you didn't match and what you can do to fix it for the next season. In this video, we're not going to talk about how to match into soap, how to get into scramble, how to match off cycle. We are not going to talk about that because those options are generally reserved for people who does not require any visa. What we're really going to focus on is why you didn't get that email on the match day. Congratulations, you matched. So why you didn't receive that email? And that's what we're going to talk about and break down in this video today. Now, we don't really have to make it very, very complicated. I'm just gonna put it into two groups, okay? The first group are the people who didn't match because you didn't get any interview at all, or you get a very little interviews, like maybe one or two. So the chances of match is pretty slim because you can just not match out of luck. Now, the second group are the people who receive interviews. I would take it as 3 or more, like 5 would be safe, like 5, 6, 7 interviews, but you didn't match. Okay, so there are these two groups. Now we're gonna break it down, right? For the first group that didn't match because have too little of interview or no interview at all, the problem is usually the applications. The very first most common reason is incomplete applications. And that would include like you're not ECFMG certified when you submit your applications. I would consider that as incomplete. For non-US IMGs, because it's harder for us to match, I would consider the following as incomplete application as well. Have 0 research or publications. Oh, I don't have cohort studies or case control studies, or even systematic review meta-analysis. It's not about that. If it's empty, it's an incomplete applications. You can get just some case reports, some simple ones, an abstract. It shouldn't be empty. If it's empty, it's an incomplete applications. The next thing that I would consider as incomplete application for non-US IMG would be step 3. Yes, step 3 is very important for non-US IMG. So having a step 3 completed at the time of your applications is going to really help you. The next thing that I would consider incomplete applications would be not having the 4 letter of recommendations. Now, note that I'm not saying that you have 4 months of rotation or 6 months of rotations, but you will need the 4 letter of recommendations to consider that the applications is complete. So that is actually the first most common reason why you receive little or no interview. Now, for the second reason, I want to explain you a very important concept that pretty much I recently learned in the past year as a mentor. In my opinion, there is no such thing as I'm not competitive enough, so I didn't match. Assuming your applications were complete. Some of the excuses that we make if we have too little or no interview are too high year of graduations, or USMLE step 1 or step 2 CK attempt, or too low of a score or step 2 CK for me to get into internal medicine, or I don't have enough research, meaning like I probably haven't done 5 systematic meta-analysis or any research that's being published by a high-end tier journal, or I didn't get enough hands-on USC, and that's the reason why I get little or no interview at all. Now, I don't believe that's the case. I don't think there is such thing as I'm not competitive enough to get into residency in the US, because it all comes down to program qualifications. Yes, the program qualifications. There will be programs that will accept a high year of graduations. There are programs that will accept even if you have an attempt, as long as you pass. There are programs that will accept a step 2 CK score of 220. All you need is to be qualified in the eyes of that particular program. So I don't think there is such thing as I'm not competitive enough. You're just not applying to the right place. That's it. You're not applying to the right place, and then because of the signaling era, I will add on to that you're not signaling to the right place. Because what signaling do is just to increase the chance of your applications to be looked at. That's it. They give you a chance for your applications to be looked at. If a program has a very strict cutoff score, for example, only going to interview people who has a higher than 250 in step 2 CK, then it doesn't matter if you signal them. You're going to be invisible to them. Okay? If the program requires 3 months of hands-on USC and you don't have them, you give signal to them, then it will not make you qualified just because you signal to them. You see? So it all comes down to applying to the right program and signaling the right program. A lot of times, applicants have a lot of mismatch. I'm just going to give you a very quick example. I run the US Clinical Mentorship Program, and I invite a guest speaker to come every week, every 2 weeks. These are the match residents, PGY 1, 2, or sometimes 3, that share their insights and share about their program qualifications. And an example of mismatch would be something like this. You have a really good score of a step 2 CK of, let's say, 270. Okay, so it's a really strong score, right? Now, what happened is that some of the community programs would be reluctant to interview you. And so now you left to compete into a higher end type of program. Then from the eyes of that programs, in order for you to be like really qualified, you will need hands-on experience. You will need maybe 5 or 10 publications in the higher end tier journal, because they expect more of somebody who has such a high score, right? So unfortunately, a lot of IMG that has a high score spends a lot of time studying for the USMLE, obviously, right? Now they don't have much anything else going on other than their score. And they have to compete with American graduates who obviously does not need a visa and maybe take off 1 year to do a research of some sort. And they are very, very competitive. So that leads to an unmatched applicant, even with a high score. On the flip side, people who has lower score, guess what that they do? Oh, I only get 220. Let me strengthen my applications by doing more research. Guess what? The community programs actually not prefer people who's doing a lot of research, because they think, oh, you are into an academic program. I'm sorry, we can't provide or help you. Right. Now, this show up in my clinical mentorship program in the weekly meeting over and over again. So now this really creates a mismatch of your applications with the program you're applying to. Very, very common issue, and that leads to little or no interviews. The last thing that I want to mention is, if you are, I don't believe in a non-competitive, but let's say you're not competitive from your standpoint because whatever red flags you have, high year graduations, lower score, etc. First mistake is to strengthen the research, which is actually more into the academic program. But let's assume that you applying correctly, right? Your qualifications fit, etc. There's one mistake that I commonly see in these applicants, my students. The personal statement. Yes, the personal statement is weak. Think about it this way. If you're going to aim for the academic program, you aim more in the community programs. Once you're seen as qualified from the program, meaning that you pass all the filters they have, whether that's USCE, whether that's the steps, whether that's the research, etc., they will read your personal statement. And that's where the goal is. You take it as you're not as competitive, you don't have those high-end academic achievements. Well, guess what? There's a lot of those people who doesn't have that high-end academic achievement. So what separates one person to the other would be the personal statement. And what I found, unfortunately, is the personal statement are pretty weak. They're pretty standard. Everybody just sounds the same. So that becomes an issue, and that's what leads you to have little or no interviews. So once you know which program that you're going to apply to, and you send the correct signals, your application will be seen. Your personal statement has to stand out in order for you to get the interview. I hope that makes sense. Now we move on to the second group. Second group are the people who actually got interviews. I would say above 3. 5 is a good number. If you have about 5 interviews and you didn't match, that means you missed 5 times. There are 5 programs that approve you, they're interested in you, they want to see you, they invite you to their program, right? 5 times, and you miss all 5. So what's the issue? Well, it's very obvious. The issue is the interview. Somebody out there out-interview you. Yeah. They did better during the interview than you. Here, I run Match with One interview course, and I explain this inside my interview course. There are 3 factors that the program evaluates during the interview: the content, the delivery, and the program fit. That's it. Content, delivery, program fit. If you didn't match, the problem with the interview has to be one of these 3. And in the Match with One interview course, I explained that if you want to match, even with just one interview, and you have to be very, very good at these 3: content, delivery, and showing the fit. Now, what is the content? Well, the content would be your answer, right? When they ask you, tell me about yourself, what would be your answer? If they ask you behavioral questions and how you handle with a nurse that doesn't like you, then what's your answer, right? So that is the content, very simple. Delivery is as important as the content, because if you are too robotic, if you're not dynamic enough, if you're not fluent, if your accent is too strong and people have a hard time to understand you, those are all delivery, and that a lot of the delivery involves non-verbal part. If you don't have a good non-verbal communications, you don't smile enough, you don't use your hands, or they can see your hands, you're not connected enough. And finally, even with the perfect content, even with the perfect delivery, if you don't show the fit, then they will not really take you. You will not be ranked high. You need to show them the fit. Now, this video, I'm going to share you the secrets of how you can show the program fit during the interview. This is just my gift for you. Okay? So you want to ask these 3 questions to yourself. And if you can answer these 3 questions, then you can confidently show the fit to the program. You ready? First question: what are the tangible outcomes that I can only get through this program? The second question: what are the things in my experience, whether that exists in your CV or in the personal statement, that show why you're interested to get the tangible outcome that you mentioned in number 1? Now, these first 2 questions only try to show the fit from your standpoint, right? I want this program because of this. But it hasn't shown the program that, sure, I understand you want to be here, but why should we choose you? And to handle that, you will need to answer the question number 3. Ready? Question number 3 is, what are the things in the experience section or in my personal statement that show that I would thrive in this program? That's it. Those are the 3 main questions you want to answer. If you can answer confidently with a great delivery of all those 3 main questions, you should be able to match even with one interview. So those are really my tips if you didn't match. Again, don't give up. This is not really the end of everything. As long as you keep trying, you'll be there, because the match will come to those who deserve it. Best of luck for all of you for the next match season. Bye now.